At this time, we'll call the January 17th, 2025 meeting of the Wilson County Planning Commission into order. Anyone wishing to give testimony before this board today, if you would, please stand and raise your right hand. I hereby affirm the testimony I give today to be the whole truth, so help me God. Say I do, please. I do. Thank you. We need to approve the minutes from the December 20th meeting. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve.
We have a motion from Mr. Renfro to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Ash. All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion will carry. We have no old business this month. I assume we'll move straight into new business, Christopher?
Yes, sir, if you're ready. All right, the first item on the agenda is a PUD amendment. Application is by B&R Lebanon Investments. Application has been made by B&R Lebanon Investments to amend the R1 Planned Unit Development Master Plan for the Cumberland Oaks subdivision located at 124 Chalford Place. The purpose of this request is to amend the building separation and lot sizes. The property contains approximately 406.81 acres, being referenced as Wilson County Tax Map 14, parcels 5.04, 7, and 8, and then Wilson County Tax Map 26, parcel 3.03. This PUD was approved in November of 2024 by the Wilson County Commission. This request is seeking to request design variances in separation and lot size. The current requirements per the Wilson County zoning ordinance call for a 30-foot separation between all residences and a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet, as the language in the PUD dictates that a lot size must be a minimum of half the size of the parent zone district. Straight zoned R1 calls for a minimum lot size of 40,000 square feet. Should the County Planning Commission or the County Commission ultimately decide to approve this request, the attached pages will amend the packet that was approved by the Planning Commission in October of 2024 and subsequently the County Commission in November of 2024. Any deviation from the previously approved plan or these variances, if granted, will have to go back to the Planning Commission for approval of an amendment to the master plan. In this instance, the developer is asking for variances and a deviation regarding planned unit development standards requirements as they were approved by the County Commission. These are as follows. The applicants are asking to allow 20 feet of separation in their neighborhood center district, which affects 79 lots, neighborhood general district, which affects 96 lots, and the waterfront district, which affects 10 lots. The total lot development for the development is 435 lots, so this is not going to apply to the entirety of the development. The minimum requirement per the PUD requirements is 30 feet of separation, and all other lots within this development will meet that requirement. However, if the developer were to develop the property under a cluster provision, the county regulations would allow 20-foot separation between structures on adjoining lots. The original request before you was to allow 10 foot of separation between these listed lots, and they have stricken that from their request. The applicants are requesting to allow some lots to be as small as 5,180 square feet in their neighborhood center district, 6,250 square feet in their neighborhood general district, and 10,000 square feet in their waterfront district to allow flexibility within their design throughout the development. They are committing to an overall lot size of 12,500 square feet, increased from what was in the previously approved plan. All previous commitments made by the developer and approved as part of the master plan will remain regardless of the action taken on the request before you today. Staff has made this PUD amendment request available to executive representatives of the school system. Staff has also made copies of the PUD amendment request available to emergency services. The proposed amendment is within Station 6, the old Legardo Road 5-mile ISO response zone for fire and emergency services. The County Stormwater Department has requested that the applicant, Planning Commission, and other interested parties be put on notice that the presence of sinkholes, caves, wetlands, streams, and land areas that are extremely flat, marshy, or steep may affect further development of this tract of land. As an additional point of information, this request is near 2 Century Farms based on information provided to the Wilson County Planning Office. The first is the Wright Jennings Farm, being located at 231 Northwest Williams Road, and the Bates Farm located at 380 Bates Road. With the above statements made, this request does not conform with the language in the Wilson County zoning ordinance in relation to the PUD. In staff's opinion, the approval of such requests will have little adverse effect and will allow the developer to go above and beyond on some of the other design elements such as drainage and conservation of the property, which were a big concern to the commissioner and the public at the original meetings.
Christopher, when you say 30-foot separation, that 15-foot setbacks,
That would be a minimum requirement of 15-foot setbacks.
and they're asking for 20, which would be 10-foot setbacks, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Who do we have here to represent this case today? Mr. Thorne?
Morning, Chairman, Commission. Caleb Thorne, 1100 Mississippi Lake Drive, Lebanon, Tennessee. As you all may recall, back in October, we came before you all and had about a 3-hour conversation, which was very delightful in being able to answer questions, concerns, and also tell the story of what the development that you have before you is and why the creation came about. We came out of that meeting with positive recommendation on the zoning for 435 units and all 6 variances that we asked for. And then in November, we went to the county commission. And at a county commission, you may or may not know, but you have about 3 minutes to speak on a topic. And when you try to put that in a 3-hour conversation that we had, you sometimes aren't able to answer all the questions and concerns. And this is a healthy packet. Acknowledge. This is different than maybe what is typically seen in the county right now. Acknowledge. We feel like that sometimes when that's the case, you have to have more conversations. And because of that, the county commission did approve the zoning at 435 units, which we're very happy for. They also approved 4 out of the 6 variances, which we're very delighted for. Unfortunately, the 2 variances that we have before you today did not get fully approved, but we're close. But we felt like there was a need to talk about this one more time, to discuss it and see if we could do 2 things. Listen to what we heard at the county commission, potentially address their concerns, while also still create the plan that you have before you and still create the vision that we came about from listening to the public, from listening to our commissioner, from addressing concerns and focusing on that vision of the creation of the plan. So that's why we're here before you, as Christopher said. What we heard at the county commission in regard to the side setbacks was that the 5-foot side setback or 10-foot separation between buildings seemed to have a little concern because it is tighter than typical in the county. And it was really in part of the location of the site, maybe at the perimeter of the county, may be challenged if there was a hazard or extreme situation that occurred. But it was fully focused on that 10. And so what we did by hearing that concern is we removed that from our request. And the request that you have does not have that. So we're very hopeful by doing that it'll be more appeasing to the county. The second one was quite a bit of lengthy discussion. And it was in regard to our lot size reductions. If we were not asking for the PUD zoning, if we were asked for the cluster, this would not be a variance because there is not a lot size reduction in that zoning. But because we're asked for a PUD specifically because we want restrictions on the development. We want constraints on the development. We want to ensure that the vision that's been approved is long-standing, is going to be created 10 years down the road. And we felt like in the PUD zoning, that's how it would be able to do that, by tightening the requirements and allowing for what we're trying to create here. However, in doing that and also trying to create the vision, we needed to ask for the variance of the reduction of the lots. But what we heard is maybe they were a little bit too small. There were conversations about the sizes that we had before of the approximately 3,200 square feet. And that was a little bit small. So what we did on that specific one is we raised that minimum to what we had the average to. And we're now asking for the 5,180 on that specific unit. The second one was the 5,500 that we've now raised to 6,250. The third being the 6,000 that we raised to 10. And then the fourth we removed from the variance request. So we feel like that by doing the part of listening to the concerns, making the adjustments to those lots, it allows us to still create the vision of the community in the county that we're desiring, an age-in-place community, a variation of product styles, one that gives a capability for maybe a first-time home buyer to purchase one of those smaller lots. And then as they move up in their career, to move into the next style of homes. And then as they age down in their career or downsize, they can then go back down the spectrum with the lot size reductions. So it's very important when it comes to placement, planning, and intent when we're asking for these variances. But it's also important into what we heard through the year-long process from the community. The desires to push the development towards the river, not encroach on the neighbors, creating a buffer system. The desires to create a public open space of over 50% in this development. That includes agri-hood opportunities, canopy retention, trail systems, and public civic spaces. And also, the main desire that our commissioner, who has heard from all of his constituents out here, not to continue infringing on the Spencer Creek watershed. So by listening to the county commission, understanding the concerns and making our adjustments, we went about it in the twofold process to set these sizes that you have before you. We tried to come to an average lot size of 12,500 square feet in our requests. The reason being is the R1 zoning used to be at 25,000 square feet recently, and hitting that average of 12,500 would adhere to what was the PUD requirement not so long ago. Secondly, we did not want to infringe on the Spencer Creek watershed with this increase of lot size. So in that twofold approach is how we ended up with the variances that you have before you by increasing them to the extents. My words can only go so far with this. So what we did is we put together two slides. I'd like to go to the next one real quick. This shows you what our development area would be per the variances. In black, it shows what is getting developed, what that area looks like. It shows the retention, the buffering, the canopy, the agri-hood, the non-infringement into the Spencer Creek watershed. And that's what we created when we created our vision and then backed into our variance request. The second one shows you what I like to call as unintended consequences. Sometimes when we go throughout life, we make unintended consequences. I'm not saying that's the case that occurred at the county. I'm saying that may have been the case. Everyone seemed to like the development. The zoning was approved. The vision was positively discussed. But the conversation that led to the non-desire to approve the variance on the lot size reduction leaned more on density, in my opinion, of what I heard, versus the creation of the vision. However, due to the unintended consequences that I feel like may have occurred, this is what you would see if we went to the 20,000 square foot lot sizes. You would lose what we set out to desire and achieve of listening to the neighbors and pushing the development to the river. You would lose the agri-hood opportunity in this development. You would lose a large majority of the open space. You would lose the buffering that we have pushed to make sure to adhere to the neighbors. And honestly, I feel like you would lose the intent of what we're trying to create, which is a community in a community, a destination location, something that does not exist in the county right now. And because of that, our team felt so strongly that we wanted to give this one more chance. We wanted to come back and have one more conversation. We wanted to listen to what we heard, make the adjustments, and hopefully be positively received from that. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have and happy to look forward to your positive recommendation.
On your second request, Caleb, how many lots are actually being affected by this?
It's 185.
Second request, the lot size reduction,
Lot size reduction. Yeah.
it is 308, 317, about 387, I believe.
It's all lots except for the neighborhood edge.
Yeah, I think about 387. It's a majority of the development.
All right, thank you, sir. Do we have anyone else here wishing to speak on this case today? Do we have any questions from our board?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
This is for Caleb and his team. Mr. Thorne, went out to, so for the board, I did see Chris yesterday, or Wednesday, I think, was it Wednesday? Yeah, Tuesday or Wednesday, and so I reduced the questions down a whole lot. So everybody's good there. A couple of observations. I did not go on the property, of course, we're not supposed to, but I did stand in the cul-de-sac down below at 124, and a couple of things of concern if this gets approved is, and you've addressed it in your first slide, when it was shown that your buffer zone, but there is a water tank that I'm assuming you guys would supply your subdivision from up on the hill, or would they add to that?
Legardo's tank, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And so there'd be construction up there, so diversion and drainage would be important for that 124, 123, and 126 lot that already exists, the homes that are down there. So just a concern and an observation. And during that service to the water tank, will the residents experience, you may not be able to answer this, water loss and pressure loss during that time, or are you going to make sure that they maintain their level of service currently? Rhetorical question, I guess, now, because you wouldn't know until you got into it. But that's one of the concerns.
We'd work closely with the Legardo Utility
Yes,
District
sir.
as well.
I'm sure you would. I'm sure you would. This increase, I counted it, you said 185 with out of 435. So you're looking for basically 250 lots, if I heard it right, still meet
No.
PUD requirements?
He's talking about the separate, he's talking
I'm talking
about
about separation.
Oh, yes,
Not the
yes,
size.
yes, sir, yes, sir, yes. Sir.
So 250 would still meet the 15 and 15, is that what I'm hearing? So only 185 would be the smaller?
Would be 20, which is pretty standard in the county right now. It's the reason why it's a variance request is because the PUD zoning references 30, where other zoning districts in the county does not.
And as a devil's advocate, which I'm not, but I'm just have to play that. I see what you've shown, but could it not be seen as another good faith step to try to adhere to all of the requirements with that, keep the same size in the previous slide, and just reduce the lot numbers so that,
That's always an option.
I mean, you still get your buffer to the community as they requested, and you meet all requirements, and you can just go on and start building. You know, basically, I'm just asking, is that something that you guys chatted about?
Oh, we have, but what that would create, let's say we did that, and we did, I don't know, 350 units out here. What that now creates is one development that has the same size lots, the same size houses, the same size square footage probably on every lot. And you're going to have the same demographic out here. Not to say that's not a bad thing. There's communities that are thriving in this county that do that. But that does not create a different type of community. That does not create a destination location in what we're trying to create here in the sense of the HM place. So it can be done, no doubt. Economics may work, no doubt. It just doesn't create what we've desired to do. And it goes back to why the development team who had entitlement rights for a majority of this property chose to revise those and create this vision, if y'all recall that.
One of the concerns, though, is your property is idealistically, let's say, set up for that. It's the precedent set for the rest of the county to make those changes. So,
And sometimes precedence gets put in there in the sense of when you set precedence, that means it has to have equal opportunities. When you look at a PUD zoning, that's when you have the opportunity to look at case-by-case basis, as opposed to base zonings, which is precedence.
thank you, sir. That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else have any other questions?
Chris, can you elaborate a little bit on your last part there? With the above statement made, this request does not conform with the language in the zoning ordinance in relation to the PUD. In staff's opinion, the approval of such request will have little adverse effect and will allow the developer to go above and beyond on some other design elements such as drainage and conservation of property. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, that it kind of reiterates what they've shown you in these last two slides. Because I mean, I was part of those meetings with Jerry McFarland, the commissioner for the district as well, and he has a major concern about adding any impact, not even a little. He would try to prohibit any impact on the Spencer Creek watershed to increase drainage, which the county is in the process of wrapping up a study with the Corps about development build out for that watershed. And the way that they have originally designed this helps significantly limit the impact that they would have on that watershed. So that's where it contributes to the drainage issue. As far as the conservation aspect, with the variances for the smaller lot size, it allows them to preserve, I believe the original account was 58%. With the variances, I think it's a little lower. I think it's around 54 or 53, but it still allows them to contribute that agri-hood neighborhood and agricultural preservation, because there's still enough acreage that they're preserving that someone could be interested to farm it in some form or aspect, whether the development farms that out as a whole or they have some sort of community aspect, agricultural investment in the neighborhood.
So just in a general, to generalize that a little bit, they can make these changes and it really doesn't cause a great deal of effect other than the fact we are varying the regulation as it stands.
Correct. And my comment on adverse effect is based off what was previously submitted. It's not going to change that as much. Going by what's in the PUD language pushes a lot of that development off over the hill, which was not what in the meetings was heard for, I think it's New Haven Road, maybe. It's the development directly to the south. There's a large field there, which they're not touching at this point, that already gets some sheet flow. This development as designed would not increase that sheet flow significantly. Now that will be looked at when they submit drainage documents to confirm that, but as it's designed, they're keeping most of their development to the north side of the ridge, which will allow it to flow into the Cumberland River as opposed to the Spencer Creek watershed.
Christopher, as far as a president,
I didn't hear that word. What'd you say?
as far as setting the
Precedent. Gotcha.
that right here doesn't concern me so much because every one of these PUDs are going to stand on their own.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
So we just take them one at a time, look at them one at a time. So I don't see that as being
One doesn't affect the others.
right.
Right.
We're now kind of getting into PUD business anyways. What's this, our second, third?
Yeah, I think it's our third.
So that doesn't concern me at all. I know that was brought up, but we're going to take them one at a time, whoever brings them, whatever development it is. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And that's why they're here before you today asking for these design elements. And as opposed to them going to the Board of Zoning Appeals where most variances are, these design elements are going to be locked in for this tract of land. So say this developer decides to up and sell, if they get approvals here, they're still locked into this design criterion for this land. So it's not like it can be sold and then go back to something substandard and not what you voted on. If they wanted to change that, the new developer would be back before you requesting a change to it. And it's up to you all to approve or deny that request at that time. But any approvals will be locked in perpetuity for this tract of land.
But as a whole, we're gaining 2,300 square feet average lot size in the lots,
Yes,
just a blanket. Okay.
yes.
That's plus.
Plus 2,300 square feet.
Along some of the stuff we've passed recently about lot size out of the, that kind of business.
Yes, sir. In fairness, and probably when they first started developing this, the standard was 25,000.
So actually, the little delay's been beneficial by increasing the lot size, right?
We're growing by 2,300 square foot average lot size on the lots he's requested that on, if I understand him correctly.
My comment about the precedent was to keep the headache off of Mike's shoulders in the back, and that was the reason for the question. But I see what you're saying to my colleague, and The less,
List, and we're good.
he's not, he doesn't when I'm around.
I think he's good.
That's what that's for.
I do, but I
I think the precedent is, if anything, is that we consider it. Well, you considered it once, you should consider it again. That's a good precedent to have.
Allowing discussion.
Yes, the PUD doesn't hold us to the precedent problem as much as some other things would.
Right, because I mean, and as far as you're worried about the precedent, I can't say that there won't be another development of a PUD. There most likely will be. But is there going to be another one that can specifically split two watersheds where they can design it to where they're not affecting the other one?
no.
Probably not. This one has a unique situation there. So, I mean, as far as the precedent going forward on that, I mean, you're looking at a very unique one here.
Okay.
Mr. Chris, to use the vernacular, who polices this? I mean, let's say I move into the neighborhood and I like that green area where the canopy is. And with enough money I offer and say, I want to build a 4,500 square foot house right here and I want 4 of those acres. What keeps that from happening? Just for the record.
Your body here. They'd have to come back before this body and get that approved before they could do that.
State it out loud. That's all. Yes, sir.
And too, a lot of those features will be covered in the stormwater maintenance agreement that will.
Excellent. Yeah. Stated it for the record. Thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have any other questions from our board? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
You will need to vote on these separately, so I can present them separately to the
You want
county
to vote on
commission.
number 1 and number 2 separately?
Preferably, yes, sir. That way I can submit them separately to the county commission in case there's any questions once we get there.
Okay, the first motion we will need would be to allow 20-foot separation between the residences. I'm sorry?
It's 20-foot separation on 185 lots.
On 185 lots. That would be our first motion we will need.
Yes.
I will call for a motion again.
So move to approve.
We have a motion. I'm sorry. Are you making a motion, Mr. Rip? Okay. We have a motion to approve the 20-foot separation on 185, Christopher?
Yes, sir.
185 lots as requested. A motion made by Mr. Noakes, second by Mr. Renfro. All those in favor vote aye. Aye. And those opposed? That motion will carry. And now we will need a motion to allow the minimum lot size on 387 lots to be,
To make sure my count's not off, can we
385.
just state those districts with those sizes to make sure my count in 1 or 2 off?
okay, and you call this neighborhood general?
Neighborhood center district to minimum 5180, neighborhood general to 6250, waterfront district to 10,000.
Okay.
With an average lot size for the development to be at 12,500 square feet.
Okay. Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion to be approved for neighborhood center district lots as low as 5,180 square feet, 6,250 square foot neighborhood general district, and 10,000 square feet in the waterfront district, and with an average of 12,500 square feet on all lots.
Second.
We have a motion to approve that and a second by Ms. Weathers. All those in favor vote aye. Aye. And those opposed? That motion will carry. And that goes before the county commission again now?
It'll go for the county commission in the February agenda.
All right. Thank you. We're now ready for the Speedway Phase 2, Lot 14, alteration and expansion.
Is your agenda backwards from mine, or I've got,
Oh, I'm sorry, I guess I did skip. Okay, we'll do the Friendship Christian. It's not different, I just marked it out wrong.
fair enough. The site plan meets requirements. We have received revised site plans. Staff does recommend approval. I also do recommend, if you do approve this, that you void and vacate the wrestling practice building that was approved in the November 2024 meeting, because this is the same building. They're just moving at locations, and I would prefer not to have 2 approved site plans walking around out there.
I understand. Who's here to represent this case today? Mr. Keith?
Brian Keith, K&A Land Surveying, 1012 Sparta Pike.
you guys approved this same building in November. The school internally has decided to move this building after the approval was granted. And so before you today is a new location of the exact same building. Nothing has changed except the location of the building. I'll answer any questions you have, if you have any. But that's really all that's going on here is we're just moving the location of the building to more into the center of campus. Anybody familiar with the campus of Friendship can see from that drawing where that is, but.
Okay, thank you, sir. Do we have anyone else here today wishing to speak on this case? Do we have any questions from our board?
Just one.
Yes, sir.
Well, it changed the traffic pattern significantly. I was over there during pickup hour just for that intent, watching the parents move through to pick up children and the drivers. Will this cause any kind of change to that you can foresee?
No, sir. This is actually towards the rear of the education part of the campus.
Or that hedge work in that area?
It's back by the well,
Up toward that,
if you look at the drawing, it's back towards the softball field, but behind that is just basically land.
yes, sir.
So it's towards the rear of the campus, but not so much at the property line.
So it won't be a drop-off?
No, sir.
Area or anything? Okay.
This is a practice facility that's been designated for wrestling, but it's just a practice facility building that the students will use. I would say probably after school hours anyway, but it shouldn't have any effect on traffic.
The first one didn't have a bathroom. Does this one?
No, sir. This is the exact same building. It does not have a bathroom. There is a bathroom in the building adjacent to it.
They can walk.
There you go.
They're young.
Do you have any other questions?
No, sir.
Chris, you're comfortable with this?
Yeah, if you're willing to void the previous approval. And I will note that all recommendations will be subject to stormwater comments going forward.
Move we approve.
Second.
We have a motion for Mr. Jewell to approve, second by Mr. Ash.
Can you,
Part of, it will void the plat approved in November. Is that part of your motion?
Yes, yes.
Based on staff recommendation.
Based on staff recommendations. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, that motion will carry. Thank you, Mr. Keith. Now we'll go to the site plan for the Lot 14 building at the Speedway.
this is a site plan for Lot 14 building. It's an alteration and expansion. The original Lot 14 building was approved for 630,000 square feet, I believe. This is to increase that building to 960-ish thousand square feet, I believe. And this building is also, which you don't have to void it in this fact because it's going to expire on its own accord, but I believe this will, you might have to correct me when you get up, but I believe this is going to lead to building 16 no longer being constructed on this previously approved site. But
Okay. Okay. Who do we have here today to represent this case?
There. Good morning. My name is Jeff Knickstein with Panatone Development Company. I'm the development manager for the Speedway. This project, Building 14, was designed to be expanded to, we built it as a 600. It was designed to be expanded up to 1.3 million square feet. We are going to expand it by 300,000 square feet to accommodate a user that is known to the Speedway and also known to Wilson County. We will lose Building 16, which is another 600,000 square feet, as well as Building 18, which is 250,000 square feet. So this is going to basically result in a net reduction of total square footage at the Speedway by about 500,000 square feet or more. So this user is, they need some extra, basically auto parking for the most part. It's going to be a heavy employer of the county, is going to be expanding. So we're excited about the project. They're going to be investing probably about $300 million into this facility overall.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this case today? Do we have any questions from our board?
Is that expansion going south? Okay.
Yes, sir. When I went out and looked at that out, you stated it's building 14 or 16 and 18 that won't be built then. That's correct. Where you're working now, because I saw some transit set up there.
That's Building 15. That is just to the east, or excuse me, to the west of the current site. And so that's a 400,000 square foot building that's been approved.
That's still going in, okay. but the other two won't because of this, because you're kicking out the south
The south and
wall
or farthest east building.
and then adding parking for that. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Any other questions from our board? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion to approve by Mr. Ash, second by Mr. Jewell. All those in favor vote aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion will carry. Are we ready for the combination plats now?
Yes, sir, and there's only one plat for affirmation this month, and that's the Joe Wayne Hardy property on Midget Road, and that's map 78, parcel 48.00.
Anyone here wishing to speak on this case today? Any questions from our board? Do we have a motion?
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Turner, second by Ms. Weathers to approve. All those in favor vote aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion will carry. We will now open the floor for public comment. State law requires us to give you a 3-minute period to talk to us about anything you think you need to talk to us about. So I'll open the floor for that now. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Ken Young. I live at 1221 Shop Springs Road. I think everybody's got a copy of this.
Yes.
It's a packet. It's about the Shop Springs pump station. It was on the agenda in November and December. In November, I asked for a deferral. I knew the Water Authority held a special called meeting to vote to condemn the property for this site, and they did that without notifying the public. And then in December, I shared the discovery that the authority had neither purchased nor condemned the property they say they need for the station. Chris Lieber, the authority's executive director, had also signed applications only the owner or his representative should sign. So I'm here today to offer some suggestions and ideas for improvement so this won't happen to anyone else. Not to this commission, the planner, the landowner, or the public. This has been a colossal waste of time and money and a drag on everyone's productivity. Let's look at some of these pages. They're in chronological order and they're numbered in the bottom right. Page 1 and 2 are applications. Note that they are not signed by the owner, but by Chris Lieber, the executive director of the Water Authority. Page 3, that's the November meeting of the Planning Commission. The executive director, Mr. Lieber, says the plans have been submitted to TDEC. We expect the final approval any day. I'll come back to that in a minute. Now, during that discussion, you also heard Mr. Jennings say, if you come before the Planning Commission, you have either got to own the property or you've got to give someone the authority to be speaking on your behalf. And I said, I hate to quote myself, but speaking about the Water Authority, I said, I encourage you to get documentation and get it verified. Don't just take a claim as being the truth. Page 4. Page 4 is one of several emails from Chris Lieber to the TDEC regulator. Understand that the authority is under a mandatory agreement to complete this project by January the 31st. And part of the supervision of the authority by the state is that they have to have monthly reports. This is one of them. Mr. Lieber reports, forward movement of this project is now in control of the Wilson County Planning Commission. Page 5, this is the December meeting of the Planning Commission. I came here and reported on the applications, and I said, the person who signed the signature block is neither the owner nor the owner's representative. Once again, Mr. Jennings has asked for an opinion, and he says to Mr. Lieber, asks the questions, does the owner of this property know this is going on? Does the owner of the property know y'all are here today seeking this? Did somebody authorize y'all to come up here and do this today? Finally, Mr. Lieber answers, I have not had a discussion with the property owner. Page 6. When the property owner found out what was going on here in this very room on the 20th of December, this is what resulted. It was a declaration by the landowner, and this was filed in civil court. He says that an application for site plan or plat pertaining to my property that was apparently presented to the Wilson County Planning Commission by Chris Lieber, the executive director of the Water Authority. He says, I never signed this document, but rather Mr. Lieber signed it as the property owner without my knowledge. I'm going to read that again. I never signed this document, and Mr. Lieber signed it as the property owner without my knowledge. That was the 23rd of December. Next page is 8. This is the monthly report to TDEC. Recall on page 3, we had a claim by Mr. Lieber that the final approval would come any day. Well, it's 47 days later, and they still hadn't got the approval. So Judge Collins would not grant the possession of the property because the authority had not received approval. So the condemnation did not go as many people had predicted. Page 9. Eventually, on January 14th, 70 days after the subdivision and site applications were signed by Mr. Lieber claiming to be the owner, they finally got their order of condemnation. Page 10, January 15th. That's just a newspaper article. Mr. Lieber's explanation included inaction from the Wilson County Planning Commission as part of the reason. Now, that's all history, but here's the important part. Look at page 11. That is your application for site plan or plat. You've all seen that a million times. If you look on the next page, page 12, this is how Knoxville does it. They say, by signing below, I declare under penalty of perjury that I am the property owner. Next page, 13. This is how Laverne Planning does it. It's a certification statement. It says, I am authorized to sign the application on behalf of the owner. I further understand, pursuant to this law, that making a false statement is a crime, and all of theirs needs to be notarized. Page 14, if you decide to improve your application form, these are a couple of codes that may apply. Having said all of that, I will say, in the end, this is a worst-case example of the abuse of government power. During the entire chain of development, no citizen will have ever had an opportunity to comment on the taking, the placement, or design of the project. The taking vote was held in secret. Then discussions here only revolved around standing. Should they be heard here at all? And clearly we see the answer is no. They should never have been on the agenda to begin with. I'll take any question.
Thank you, sir. Christopher, you have a couple items for discussion?
Yes, Chair, I do. The first one is similar to the issue that Mr. Young brought up. It's amending the intake application. I have submitted one. I believe everybody's got a copy, but there's some language just above the bottom of the page kind of outlining that the person's signature is acknowledging that they are either the owner and they are authorized by the owner, and there's language in there. It says under penalty of law that if you are violating this, there could be further prosecution, and that is not necessarily to keep. It's created to help keep this board and the planning office out of any further litigation by, if it goes to court, similar to what this last case did. We are not responsible for that signing.
Are you asking us to authorize you that, or is that just something y'all have implemented?
It's just something that I'm looking to implement, probably come before this next deadline, unless you tell me that you don't feel it's necessary, and then I'll strike it. But it's not something you have to vote on because it's internal. It's just how we handle the intake processing, so it's not something you have to vote on. I just wanted to make you all aware of it. If you completely against it, I can strike it from my application and then keep operating as usual.
Mr. Young makes a good point, and I think we need to implement that.
Okay.
What else do you have?
The second thing is, it would be, I just need whether or not you want me to proceed with maybe looking into the bylaws and amending them. And this would be allowing virtual attendance, and then that would need to have a secondary discussion on whether or not you want to allow voting per virtual attendance. Currently, we do not have anything in our bylaws that allows any planning commission member to attend virtually. We can set that up and allow them to attend virtually, and then you all can also decide on whether or not you want to allow them to be able to vote virtually. But I just need to know, because there's been some concern brought up about that, on whether or not we can allow it for our members, and we just have to put it into the bylaws, and then there needs to be restrictions on it.
County doing anything along this line yet? County Commission's not, are they?
No,
No, the county commission is not.
there are certain provisions, there's not a blanket provision in state law that allows this. There's a specific statute that allows it for 911 organizations. There's a specific statute that allows it for members of the Board of Education under very limited circumstances, and only once or twice per year. In other words, you can't locate to Florida for a summer home or winter home for 4 or 5 months and try to go. And let me wear sackcloth and ashes here. I've been requested by a board member twice to look into this. I haven't done it, but I will. And I'll help Christopher and we'll get an answer. But I don't think we're gonna find state law authorization to do that. If we do, we can do it very easily. If it's not there, we can't. But I got a little.
So at this point, we just need to wait till you get us some more answers.
Yeah, we'll get it.
We don't need to take any action along that line.
Waiting on him.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Anything else, sir?
That is all I have for you all today. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you very much. We will stand adjourned. Thank you.